Hi.
I am sitting here with the one and only Jackie Chan, global superstar, and he is signing all of these books. Are your hands tired?
No, tired, but I'm happy.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm
really,
so
really
happy
happy.
to hear that.
How do you feel?
Good. I'm excited. This is the first time I've done something like this before, a live signing.
Where do I want to go that I've never been? Oh, we're thinking about, not thinking, we're putting it in motion. I'm going to go to Indonesia on my irresponsible tour this year. I'm excited about that. I've never been. And there's been a heavy demand for me there. So we're going to go. We're going to go to Indonesia and I'm going to make people laugh in Indonesia. That's how I roll. How do you roll? I can't make this up. Wayne, you got your Indonesia pants? I decided it about a good 3 weeks ago. You'll see it on the schedule soon, so I suggest you go get your pants for Indonesia. Because you're not going to wear them stupid pants. Where do you think Indonesia is? India. Yes, we out.
So you can see that I'm signing it. This is not some machine scribbling my name. This is my actual human body scribbling my name. So, all right, there we go. First book, signed.
We have fans from all over who have written questions that they want to ask you.
Oh dear.
And they're also going to get signed copies of the book. We're so excited.
Yeah.
So you ready to jump into some
Yes,
questions?
yes.
Hey, we're live at the live signing.
To my mind, the successful feeling at the end of a book is not that you have done everything you could with the book, but that you've scratched the surface.
So it was a wonderful, it was a wonderful experience and a wonderful discipline in storytelling.
I'm going to start signing right now. I guess I'll sign in red. You know, red. I'm a Delta. Red.
Can you guys see that? See, he's a little smudge right there. So if you see a little smudge, that means Charles jumped on the book as I was signing it.
I don't mind doing signings because people really love a signed copy of a book. I know I do. I will sometimes sign a book to myself.
You were only 7 weeks old and ABC really wanted to get the new host in that seat and get things going. And I said, but I'm breastfeeding. And by the way, that was at a point like in 1979, coming up on 1980, you really weren't even allowed to say breastfeeding on the air.
I feel like this is something we kind of all need right now.
My life changed after my leg was broken in 1985. My world changed. I had the world by the tail. I had every material thing you could possibly hope for going for you in your life. And then all of a sudden, bang, in one instance, it was gone.
The only thing that matters is the love you give and the love you allow yourself to receive.
I'm healthier than I've ever been, only because I got healthy when I was like 40.
Thank you so much.
Got it. Hi there. You probably recognize this guy. I'm Ned Rust. I'm his publisher, the James Patterson here, the #1 best-selling author in the world. And
Did you just make that up?
I did some research before I got here today.
We are doing my virtual live book signing.
Live book signing.
This is crazy.
More and more authors are doing this. I think it's so cool.
Signing some of the signed copies that you guys can get at premiercollectibles.com.
You're going to be signing these books
Yes,
live
I
over the
will
next 45 minutes.
Hey, what up, this your boy? I'm watching myself. Look at that. I need to stop.
If you're OCD, how is this panic-inducing to you?
They're not
like
watching
all
anymore.
these.
They've got a bag.
Yeah.
They've got a bag.
I'm inspired by your success. What advice do you give someone who's never found his passion?
Hi, I'm Judge Janine Pirro. You probably heard of my book, Liars, Liberals, and Leakers. I may look like Greg Gutfeld, but I'm not. Actually, this is so exciting. My 8th book, The Gutfeld Monologues, is out. This is fantastic. If you haven't purchased it yet, you're dead to me. But you still have time to reanimate and become my best friend.
Biggest pet peeve?
Yeah.
Men that talk to me with spinach in their teeth.
What can I do while at work to help lower my stress and improve my health?
One musician do you most admire?
I love you all, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Bye.
Much love. See ya.
See you soon.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll see you around the world. Woo!
Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone here.
Bye, guys.
Say goodbye, Mary.
See you in the morning.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Oh my God.
Hi, everybody.
Are we live?
Yeah, they just said we're live.
Okay, hi.
Welcome to our book signing virtual live event.
This is so 2021. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play a little game. We're gonna pretend we are at your favorite local bookstore.
Right, and most bookstores have microwave ovens and refrigerators, right?
Right.
Maybe like, well, if they have a Starbucks, they probably do.
Yeah, so, and then we're gonna be signing books while answering your questions that some of you have sent some in already, but you can also send them in now. I think, is there like a chat box situation?
Yeah.
There's a situation.
We're going to be monitoring that. So by the way, if you're here, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for those of you who have bought our book. And for those of you who asked for autograph books, we're going to be signing a few of those. If you haven't gotten your autograph book or you haven't bought it yet, you can get it at premiercollectibles.com/Holderness. That's spelled like wilderness with a hoe. So imagine you're spelling wilderness, but you just put a H-O.
Just put a hoe in it.
You just put a hoe in it. So this has been an interesting week. We put our book out into the universe 48 hours ago, and it feels longer.
Well, and I know it's one of those things where it's all we've thought about for several, I feel like a couple of years. So to finally have this happen, like,
Yeah.
how are you, and so for the rest, even our kids, they're like, oh, you're still talking about that book. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know, but it's such a big deal. Yeah. Start sending some books.
I'm going to sign while
So
you're
how
talking.
about you start and then you send the book to me?
And I'll pass it on. You can keep your thought going.
Anyway, so it's been such a big deal to us. And it's means so much to us that you would support us in this way, but I want to get to some of your questions.
Yes.
Okay. Again, pretend we're at a bookstore.
Yeah.
And we just had a fun talk. Okay. Jessica in Florida, by the way, grew up in Florida.
Yeah.
What made you decide to make your videos? Did you expect to create the following that you have? We honestly, the first video we ever, well, I guess we made one anyway, but like the first big video we did was like in my Christmas jammies. And that came from a place of our kids would never sit still for those like beautiful Christmas card pictures. I'm so jealous. Like even now that they're older, it's terrible. So we decided that let's just make a silly video. Like we have this video experience and we have ways to shoot and edit stuff. So let's just like shoot a video, and he's a musician and he can do parodies. So we published that, and thinking that like my mom would share it on Facebook or one of those things. And then it got like a lot of views.
And to answer the question about whether we expected to have this kind of following, here's proof that we didn't know. We put our license plate number and our address in that first video, which is really stupid. I just got a text from my next door neighbor that my dog is across the street.
You're kidding.
Does that ever happen during a book signing? That's not great. So here, I'm going to let you keep signing. Or do you want to go get it?
I'm going to go get
our dog's gotten out because we are completely scatterbrained this week. I'm sorry that Kim had to leave, but our dog does not know how to obey basic traffic laws. So hopefully she didn't get hit by a car. Okay. Basil in Pennsylvania. Is it Basil or Basil? It's Basil in Austin Powers. So I'm going to go Basil. We found that things said during a fight give you some insight into the other's true thoughts, feelings, or perspectives, and we try to learn from that. Do you find this to be true? 100%. So one of the main discoveries that we made when Kim and I went to counseling and then subsequently decided to write this book is that when you fight with...
Who texted you? I'm so sorry.
Ellis did. Are you still looking for the dog?
Yeah. No,
I was having a cogent thought.
Okay, I'm sorry.
When you fight, Not only do you get hot under the collar and end up sometimes sleeping in separate rooms, if you get through the fight, you actually learn something important about your partner. You learn what their vulnerabilities are, and hopefully don't use that against them. And you also learn what's important to them. So after finishing a fight, we actually have what's called a post-fight analysis, where you can talk about not only what you did right, what you did wrong, but also what you learned from it. And there's tons of things. Like I didn't know how much of an extrovert Kim was until we started fighting. And until we started fighting correctly. Hello, Sunny. Our dog is still alive.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
I didn't know much about Kim's anxiety and what that makes her, how that makes her a different person. Sometimes.
Oh, we're on to anxiety. Okay,
no,
cool.
I'm just talking. This was.
I just ran down the street.
Yeah, Basil asked a very intelligent question. I was trying to give an intelligent answer. So
Okay.
yes, I do find that to be true. You want to go ahead for the next one?
I'm out of breath.
Do you want me to?
So here, hold on. Here's the thing about our dog. She's great. She's never gonna run away, but I am worried because she's not that smart that she would run like into a car.
I mentioned that.
Yeah, she's not that smart.
I mentioned that she's not she doesn't follow.
Rebecca in California, what life hacks have you found to be particularly effective when it comes to arguing? I don't know that there's hacks. I would say.
Well, we have a few.
I would say communication. Well, if you count like just like basic language tweaks, maybe that's a hack.
We have magic words that
Yeah.
you can say to help you out with fights. Like instead of saying you should, you always, or you never, say I feel, make it subjective.
Right.
Meta communicate either before or after the fight. And what that means is like take a 30,000 foot view of what it is that you're arguing about and try to figure out if maybe this isn't the best time for the fight. Are you tired? Are you hungry? Are you drunk? Are you needy? Like our dog right now. I don't know if you can hear her.
She wants to go play. So meta communication, we learned this from our counselor, and it's talking about how you fight and learning your fight style. So I learned that when times of conflict, I feel most comfortable, we call it like pulling the ripcord. And I found that even early in our relationship, like I would just walk out the door. I would get in the car and drive around. And like, you can't actually do that in a grown-up relationship. You're not going to solve your problem. Trust me, sometimes you need to take 5 minutes and clear your head, but leaving is not going to help anything. So we learned like our fight styles. And so that way, when we were in times of peace, but when we were in the heat of the conflict, we could I could identify, okay, my instinct is to leave. I'm going to sit my butt in the chair and work this out.
There's a lot of hacks in there. There's telling people what you want is one really big hack in a fight. Instead of projecting on them, talk about what you want and tell them why. Say,
and it's bizarrely, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
it's bizarrely hard to ask for what you want, even the person that you're most comfortable with.
So here's a good one from Stephen in New Jersey. Do you feel enormous pressure to constantly come up with new content for your channel? Yes. That's a short one. The short answer, honestly, like this week, we have not done a great job of coming up with original songs and contents, because when you launch a book, there's a lot of stuff going on. So
yeah, and I would say I want to be the person that says no. We give ourselves. I'll take it and put it in the signed file.
Oh, okay.
I want to say no. We just let the ideas come to us, and we give ourselves grace, and we. But yeah, because we've made it our job, if I can be totally transparent, I think there is maybe I worry a little bit that like, well, what happens if we don't have good ideas anymore? And then what happens if the ideas aren't good, then people don't watch. If people don't watch, then
that's the definition of pressure.
Right.
You're describing pressure.
Right. So, so yeah, I want to be the type of person that says, no, I trust the process, but it is not in my nature to be real chill about stuff like that.
The good news is we kind of have an endless vat of content, because we take our content from what's going on in our lives and in our family. And this is not a quiet time for our family. Our daughter is about to go into high school. Our son is about to go into middle school. There's never a lack of things to talk about and to notice in our lives. And you and I run a business together, so we run into a lot of conflict, and sometimes conflict can be funny.
Yeah.
So
the last year it seemed like we took some time to figure out like how we wanted to talk about COVID stuff, because we never wanted to minimize the virus itself and how serious that was. But the situation around it and the quarantining and all that stuff was tough, but we found a way to like have fun with it. So are you getting some questions?
Yes. I'm sorry. Bill in California. By the way, we're fans of California.
I love California.
We wish we could. It's been a year since I've been there, and my soul needs to go back to California.
I need some California.
Bill said, "Ooh, Bill, this is a good move." Bill bought this book for his wife, April. Her 45th birthday is on Saturday. Let's start with happy birthday, happy early birthday, April. I was wondering, how does it feel to know that these videos have helped bring us a little sunshine in an otherwise sad year and some change? I'm grateful to you both.
Aww.
That's more of a backhanded compliment.
And I'll take
it. Or no, not a backhanded. That's like a forehanded compliment.
That is a forehand.
That was not a question. That was just very sweet. Thank you, Bill. We have had a lot of fun writing about COVID. And like I said, there's just been a lot to write about.
There's been a lot to write about. And I think it helped us. Like I've talked about, for me personally, my brand of anxiety, depression is helped a lot by creating and making something, even if it's a recipe or a blog post or something. So the act of making the silly videos helped me. So it was completely selfish, but I'm glad it people found joy.
We should talk a little bit about the act of actually writing this book. If you've read it already, you know that it's kind of a back and forth of each of our individual observations of what happened during a fight. Then our counselor, Christopher Edmonston, comes in and kind of tells us what we're doing right and wrong. We take a certain principle and then we do a little research on it and then kind of move forward and talk about solutions in the book. It took several years to write, but the end of it, we wrote during quarantine.
Yeah, the last 2 or 3 chapters, my brain is mush right now, were written in quarantine, which was a special sort of special. But it was.
See, I liked it. I've never I did not realize how much space we had in our backyard. I explored all the space.
We have this little shed.
Yeah.
And
it's not meant for.
Yeah, but that's
writing.
where I wrote. And it's so funny. I would post like Instagram stories because I'd be out there with my computer, and my brain works best if I have it printed out. So I'd like print things out, and somebody spotted. They're like, "I see a book manuscript." I'm like, "Shh." But yeah,
I really enjoyed writing it because we were kind of putting the finishing touches on it, and we'd already learned some of the tools and like principles for making the marriage work.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a lot of time to practice what we were preaching, and to kind of hone it in and make sure that what we were putting down made sense. We made a fair number of changes, and we got in some new fights as well. I'm sure, like, we're not the only people who fought during quarantine, right?
Right? You're there, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay. Donna in Pennsylvania.
Donna in Pennsylvania. How do you bring balance to your marriage? For example, in my relationship, if I'm happy, he seems miserable. When he's happy, I'm miserable. You know what? We joke that we get to take turns. And I don't know if I'm saying this right. Because I think it is a balance. And I think that we kind of take turns. Only one person can freak out at a time. And if we have a whole chapter in our book called Secret Contracts, and that is basically those, we learned from our counselor, these unspoken just promises you've made in your marriage. And as frivolous as like, who's going to take the garbage out? Like that's that secret contract. And sometimes they work, right? Like sometimes I get the kids up and ready for school and pack lunches. Penn takes them to school, and it works because he gets to sleep in. I don't have to put a bra on. It works. Well, when secret contracts don't work, the wheels fall off a little bit. So in another secret contract in our marriage is that he feels like he always has to be the happy one, because I lean towards like gloom and doom sometimes, just sometimes. And so it's really hard because he feels like he always has to be the happy, cheery one. And so it actually works where I have to say to him, like, okay, secret contract, you can chill out now. You can worry for a little bit now. So I don't know if that's what you were asking.
Well, what did she ask again? How do you bring balance? I would say the best way to bring balance to a marriage, and we're not talking about work relationships. We have
their moods are out of sync.
No, I got you. So for us, just the simple fact that I am an extrovert with ADHD and she is an introvert with anxiety. That on the Enneagram scale, we're quite different. I'm sort of like a golden retriever and she's actually a type 1, which is, or at least you were last time. You're like an Enneagram chameleon. We talk openly about what we are and what the other person is. And if you have a deficiency, which is actually in the title of the thing that I have, by the way, I hate the name ADHD. I think we could do a better job. I think we could do a better job with the name. But if you have a deficiency, it's not a bad idea, while she's giving me grace and understanding that I have it, it's not a bad idea for you to actually do some extra work to make sure that you're not just leaning on it as a crutch and saying, sorry, I wasn't listening, I have ADHD. You have to actively try to listen. We talk about active listening in the book.
Our dog.
And our dog is not listening.
No, our dog is having the time of our life.
We talk about active listening in the book, and it is me literally focusing as hard as I can on just getting through the end of someone else talking without blurting it out. That's what my affliction is. For her, with anxiety and sometimes like a chemical gloomier look at the world that God gave her. That is who she is as a person, which by the way, makes her an amazing empath, extremely loyal, and a wonderful mother. Like it makes her all those things, but she also has to work sometimes on getting out there.
Yeah.
Right.
I joke that like the pandemic, it was rough for an introvert, honestly, because I've not been alone in a year, but actually I'm okay with not doing anything. There was a question that just came in. Sorry,
Thank you guys for sending them in now. I've got them. You want me to read it?
Yeah.
So Sarah from Illinois.
Yeah.
What do your kids think about the attention that your family receives? We get that question a lot. Let me start with this.
I feel like we should have the kids on the podcast or something.
We have had them before. Sometimes they can be little turds on the podcast and sometimes they can be great.
I don't remember.
So let's start with this. It's evolved, right? They were 3 and 6 when this whole thing started. And back then there were some challenges, right? One of the challenges was like overexposure and making sure we weren't like not giving them a choice, but to become celebrities. So one of the first things that we did was we had to, like, when they were old enough to understand, we had a conversation, like, if we're doing these videos, you do not have to be in these videos,
right?
Even though people were asking for them in the videos. The second thing that we do is we ask them about it on a regular basis because we know our kids are changing. My daughter is a teenager now. She's about to go into high school. My son's about to go into middle school. So we talk to them about it constantly. And the third thing that we do is we openly admit to each other that we are terrified of screwing up our kids. And we admit it to anyone who asks. We are terrified of screwing up our kids.
Aren't we all? I don't care the job you have. Aren't you terrified? So I would say, and if you look at our videos, and I would be interested to see the percentage, like if we've produced 1,000 videos, probably earlier on, they were in more because they were around more, but now they're in sports and their lives have filled up more and we don't want to pull them from that. So they're not in as many. I would say most of the videos we did even last year, they're not in most of them. They get real, like they turn into, like I haven't been in a video, and if one of them's in a video and the other one's not, they get a little like angsty about it. But in terms of the attention, I think they like it when people come up and like ask for pictures. We haven't done anything lately, but I would say like we're going to go to Disney, I think in June. And the last time we were in Disney, some really nice people, a couple of people stopped us for pictures, and I think the kids like it. But we've even said like, you don't have to be in a picture, you don't have to do any of that. So we try to like let them like create their boundaries with that.
Maddie from Pennsylvania, what was the hardest thing for you during the pandemic? Mine is easier. Mine is easy. I want to go out and see people. I want to leave. I'm an extrovert. I need energy from other people. I love my wife.
No. I would say like, no, I do miss, like my mom is fully vaccinated and she's coming to see us in like 2 weeks. I'm so excited. I miss like seeing my mom, and she lives in Florida, and we usually see each other like 4 times a year. And I haven't seen her in a year. And then, so there's like the close connections I missed. And then I honestly missed being alone because I was in this house alone. And then, the kids were home all the time. So that was like the hardest thing for me. And then just seeing how much people were struggling like that. It's hard to see so many people Like, I mean, it's scary, right? Okay. Cassie and Missouri, what made you want to write this book? Did we kind of answer that?
Yeah, I mean, we were getting in fights. We needed to find a way to stop having the same fight over and over again. We went to counseling, and what we learned was so simple that even I could understand it as a bullheaded male who doesn't want to go to counseling. And it was inspiring for me. I'm gonna play the dude here.
Let's lean into some gender stereotypes.
It's not all guys, but this guy didn't want to do this work. It was like an admission that it was bruised ego. It was an admission that I failed as the rock of the family at first, and that took a while to get past. And once I got past it, I could not believe how simple it was, how great counseling was. I wanted more immediately once I got to start of it because it makes you feel good about yourself. There's no blaming. It's strategy, and I mean. I'm like a sports nut. I love to have like an advantage, and these advantages that they were giving us through this counseling, like I just wanted to share.
Yeah. And I think we wanted to share it in a way that like a 3-minute song and dance video with jazz hands couldn't. Like, this is not going to be a funny
You're not going to
video.
finish this book in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. It's got a lot of pages.
Tori in California, what is one thing you're grateful for?
Just one? Her. That's easy. Like I can't.
Tori from California?
No, yes, Tori, it's you. No, I was pointing to you.
I'm sorry.
If there's one thing I'm grateful for, it's a woman that I've never met. Tori in California.
Hope you're watching Tori. He snores a little sometimes. No, you. No, yeah. That's why I don't buy lottery tickets anymore. I don't, because I feel like I used all my lucky on meeting Penn Holderness.
Fabi in Canada, what made you decide to make your videos? We did answer that. Has Penn ever sang professionally?
Yes, in the
sort of
in the show.
Yes, I was paid to do a musical at Regional Theater for the Rocky Horror Show. I think most of the money they gave me was an assumption that I would post on Facebook about it, and I don't know if it was for my talent. Because I was the least talented person.
That's not true.
Oh no,
they were
so
all
good.
very. You were very talented.
I know I'm talented. These people are ridiculous. So regional theater actors are
they're very
freaking good at their jobs. So I did that once. I was in. You know what? I got paid to be a singer in college when I was in that band. Oh yeah, we had to make money. We made I would make like $100 a show, but then
that's huge.
20 of it went into beer and pizza. I usually spend it all by the time
I was gonna say, but I'm surprised only 20 of it went to.
It was a stipend. So yeah. We know a Becky in Pennsylvania.
Becky in Pennsylvania. I know a Becky in Pennsylvania. How do you keep it together and find time for your kids? Kids, Penn, and Nako.
You want to try that again?
They're not going to use words. I know. Want to read it for me?
Becky wants to know, how do you keep it, Kim, how do you keep it all together and find time for your kids, Penn, and still not go crazy?
I don't know.
You just go crazy?
This year's been particularly hard. I used to be better about putting boundaries around, this is my time, this is couple time, this is kid time, this is work time. I was a little more organized about it. And I think one of the reasons we're all under stress right now is because those boundaries have just been imploded.
They don't exist
anymore.
anymore.
So you're on a conference call. We are, kids are coming in asking for help with virtual school. There's no boundaries. So I would say I have not in the last year done a good job with that. I am trying to get better. And I also recommend therapy. I did some therapy last year as well. The kids did something really sweet and special over quarantine.
They invented a restaurant, a French restaurant called
Les Poufs.
Le Pouf. And they dressed up in suits and they put tablecloth over our card table in the garage and turned it into a candlelight dining experience. They cooked Oreo nachos and quiche that had bacon, cheese, and graham cracker bread.
So our sweet kids, they went on the Instacart because we were ordering groceries. And so they wanted to put everything in Instacart, and I just hit pay and I didn't look at what was in it. And so our sweet kids made wanted to make a quiche because she's like, my daughter felt like she could do it, but she accidentally bought the graham cracker crust. So she made this delicious quiche, but in a graham cracker crust. And anyway, it was delicious and so sweet. And they brought us and they dressed up. They did that a couple times.
When I was talking about the graham cracker crust, I did not mean to say that it was, I mean, it was weird because you wouldn't put like that food together, but I ate every bite and it was the best meal I had during quarantine because my heart was full.
Yeah.
Like
so special.
Let me ask you something. Has anyone else's kids just shocked you with their maturity, resilience, and ability to kind of grow through all of this? I was scared when this got started. I'm like, this is going to arrest the development of our kids. Opposite. They have developed so many survival skills and coping skills that we didn't have before. There's been some potholes
in the road.
Of course, but I don't think there's been arrested development at all. Like I'm so proud of them. Maybe some of the social stuff.
Yeah, the social stuff.
But they'll get right back into that.
Like PC saw, we were watching TV. It was like an outdoor concert. He's like, super spreader. I was like, honey, this is in like 2015.
Been around their parents.
I know. And I was like, what? I'm like, when do you think you're going to feel comfortable going to something like that? And he goes, I don't think I ever will. I'm like, you will. You totally will. So I'm hoping, yeah. But I feel like we're almost done with our books, unless you guys have more questions.
There's one more.
Okay.
Abby from Texas.
Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice you were given when you first got married? I remember mine.
Oh, you go.
So my dad was our marriage counselor.
He was a pastor, so
Yeah.
he provided some pre-marriage counseling.
Yeah.
He wasn't our counselor. We went to like a meeting where we did like a Myers-Briggs test. We did. So he just kind of walked through with us.
He said, you guys are going to be fine, which is good to hear from your dad. He said, but you're going to walk on eggshells for the first year. The earlier you can stop walking on eggshells, the sooner you're going to be able to grow together as a couple. And he was right. Like when you're first married, everything's kind of like, but then if something's like bothering you, you kind of
break some eggs.
You walk on eggshells. You kind of push it down. And there's a whole chapter on that in our book about stonewalling.
Oh, stonewalling. I was like, we didn't walk on.
No,
eggshells.
the issues that you don't talk about, that you're like embarrassed to talk about. You're this happy couple. You're not supposed to say anything. And so he was right. Once we and the counseling was a big part of it. Once we started kind of actively talking about it, it made a difference. So I thought that was really good advice. Be honest with each other and tell each other what you want.
My mom told me, because my parents are divorced, and they tried really hard. They went to counseling. They actually got remarried to wonderful people. So they did their very best. She told me, she's like, just be nice to each other. Just treat each other with kindness. And we actually did, this is a strategy that Christopher taught us as well. It's like, treat your spouse with the kindness you would show a stranger. I think we talk a little bit about that, like,
because you're like nicer to strangers.
You're nicer to strangers. Yeah. You give a stranger more context. Like the person you sit next to in the airplane, you give them more context, you give them more details. Whereas I can come in and just be like, and I don't explain why I'm in this mood, whatever. But always like treat your spouse like a stranger.
You can also get kind of hot like that, right? And turn it into like one of those kind of.
This is a family show.
Role play situations. Okay, so we are going to wrap up, you guys. Thank you so much for coming. I was going to thank her.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
but
you go.
Okay, I can't. I don't think I can read this out loud because it might make me cry. But Sandy sent a very nice note about our book, and I just want to say thank you very much. And if we could hug you, we would.
She said, I can read it.
Okay.
Your book helped me so much. Even my husband has passed away in January of 2020. I learned things that could have helped us. Your videos made me smile when I didn't want to. Sandy, we want to hug you.
Yeah.
I love you, Sandy. Thank you for the message. Thank you for the support and writing that.
Yeah.
So we're praying for you, Sandy.
So thank you all also for joining us. This is not it for us today. We're going on a late night TV show at 10 p.m. So our day continues. That's going to be
way
exciting.
past my bedtime.
If you want to, I think we're like drinking tequila or something.
No,
yeah,
she changed
it's Ashley Banfield, who used to be the CNN anchor, and she's on WGN America now. So if you're up at 10:30 and you want to see more of this hot mess, tune in. I don't know what they're going to do with us for 30 minutes.
They asked our favorite drink and we said tequila and they're like, besides that, not tequila.
We're like, Ashley, mature people ask for what they want. Just tell us what you want to drink.
So now we're drinking white wine.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for coming out. And we're just so grateful for your support. And onward. We're going to make dinner.
I love you.